Hi, Nancy. I have an important meeting with the hospital's board of directors tomorrow, and I need some information on our hospital's readmission rates. Can you get it to me by the end of the day?
Of course, Diane. I can get that to you pronto. Where do I get this information from?
Nancy, you should check out our hospital's HSR. You'll be able to pull all the information from there.
HSR? What's that?
It stands for Hospital Specific Report. Most hospitals in the country receive an HSR for a number of different outcome measures. Since Diane asked about the readmission measures, let's pull up the readmission HSR. The report itself is an Excel file that CMS provides to us to help us understand how we perform on the measures and where we can improve. You can see there are lots of tabs, but each is pretty easy to understand. I can help you go through each of the tabs and show you what information might be the most useful for your presentation.
Thank you. So if I want to see our hospital's results, which tab should I go to first?
Oh, that information is in this tab. You can get not only our hospital's readmission rates, but you can see the readmission rates in our state and for the whole country. So, for the pneumonia readmission measure, our hospital's RSRR, which by the way stands for Risk Standardized Readmission Rate, is 17%. If you look closer, we had 58 patient discharges, of which 8 patients had unplanned readmissions, and 8 divided by 58 is 13.8, and that's our raw rate. But CMS doesn't report on raw rates, because raw rates don't take into account how sick a hospital's patients are. That's why CMS uses risk-adjusted rates to compare hospitals' performance. In other words, risk-adjusted rates account for how sick a hospital's patients are.
Oh, I noticed that we fall into the no different than the national rate category for pneumonia. What does that mean, and how is that determined?
CMS has 3 performance categories that hospitals can fall into: better than, worse than, or no different than the national rate. CMS uses interval estimates to determine the category a hospital falls into. If the national rate falls within the interval estimates, then we will be categorized as no different than the national rate. If the national rate falls outside of the interval estimates, then we will be categorized as better or worse than the national rate. For example, if you look at our pneumonia measure, since the national rate, 17.1%, falls within our interval estimates, 13.3% to 21.4%, our performance is no different than the national rate. However, these categories are only assigned to hospitals that have at least 25 cases. If you don't, then it says, number of cases too small, because there isn't enough data to accurately estimate your performance.
What about the state rate? What's that used for?
It's not used in measure calculation, but CMS gives us this information to help us understand how we compare to other hospitals in our state.
So our pneumonia readmission rate is higher than the average pneumonia readmission rate in our state?
Correct.
This is really helpful information. I'm interested in pinpointing why our patients are being readmitted. Do we have any details on this?
Yeah, I look at that information in the HSR all the time. It's in this tab here. It includes every patient that was admitted to our hospital who meets the inclusion criteria for the measures. It also tells you if our patients were readmitted after they left our hospital, and, if they were, when and why they were readmitted.
Whoa, that's a lot of information.
It sure is. To help navigate through all this information, we use the filter function here. For example, let's say we wanted to look at our patients for the COPD readmission measure only. We can use the filter function to see which patients were discharged for COPD and the reason why. Each row corresponds to a specific discharge, and if a patient had multiple discharges, they'll appear in multiple rows.
Oh, so this patient came in twice for COPD?
Yeah, the first time they were admitted on September 1st and discharged on September 10th. And since the inclusion-exclusion indicator is 0, this means that they were not excluded from the measure and will be included in the calculation.
Wait, how did you know what the 0 meant?
Great question. The HSR comes with an HSR user guide that describes what all the numbers stand for in the HSR. Not every admission in this tab is included in our measure. Only those with a 0 in this column are actually being included. Everyone else is excluded, and each number corresponds to a different reason for exclusion.
Okay, that's helpful.
So this patient was included here, and because there's a yes in this column, it means they went back to the hospital with an unplanned readmission within 30 days of discharge. It even tells us that they were discharged from another hospital on September 22nd for a reason that is coded as 49121.
Do a lot of our patients get readmitted to this hospital?
We can filter to figure that out, and we can also figure out the most common reason for why our patients get readmitted.
That's great information for our presentation. I think we can use this information to identify trends in readmissions in areas we may want to pay more attention to in order to reduce our readmission rates. Is there any other information we can use for our presentation?
The next couple tabs tell us about our patients' risk factors and how sick they are compared to other patients in the state and the nation. For example, in our hospital, 15% of our patients in the COPD readmission cohort had sleep apnea. This statistic is 23% at the state level and 20% nationally. After adjusting for all these risk factors, this tab tells us how our hospital performed compared to other hospitals in the state and the nation.
Thanks, Omar. This was really helpful.
You're welcome. If you need any more information, you can always contact the inbox listed on the first tab, or check out the resources on QualityNet. Oh, and remember, be sure not to include any PHI in your presentation, and don't send our HSR around. It contains private information about our patients. Good luck with your presentation.